And we found something special, this 1993 CBR 900. So we thought we'd kind of just run you through the years here and see how far we've gone since 1993 when Honda rewrote the rules in the sport bike world with this bike right here. And today, it's still cutting edge. It's got one of the fastest, most nimble bikes in the market with the CBR 1000. But let's just run you through this bike. Some of you might not have ever even seen one of these on the road. And here it just showed up on our doorstep. It's got a few beauty marks on it, but you know, that's what you'd expect on an older bike. An aftermarket slip-on pipe, but you know, you're rarely going to find one of these off the showroom floor that's squeaky clean. As you probably noticed, there's a lot of plastic back here in the tail section. You know, back in the day though, that was neat, tidy, and trim with the stacked seat. Down in the back here, you've got a trunk, for lack of a better term. You could fit a baby's helmet back there. You could take your lunch and your dinner in there, go grocery shopping probably. You're not going to find that on today's bikes. There's barely enough room back there to put your insurance card. You keep coming up front, and as you sit in the tank, the first thing you notice is, what is this gigantic contraption up here? Well, back in racetrack days, you know, you just had a race fairing on there, and this was your fairing stay. Some people like it and some people hate them, but we haven't even, these don't come on bikes anymore. There's no need for them. It's unnecessary weight. They've found better ways to hold the fairing up. This gigantic fat gas tank was another characteristic of this bike. Now gas tanks are composite, aluminum and plastic. This sucker's all aluminum, and you sat down in this bike and stretched over a big old tank. Another love it or hate it thing. I think it's pretty cool. Gives the bike a lot of character. Big fat frame as well. At the time though, in 1993, this bike was came in extremely light. It made great power. When we say great power, that was 120 or so, 125 horsepower on a strong one, versus, you know, how many years later is 2010? 17 years later, and we're talking 150 horsepower and even less weight. But moving forward still, you see Honda's trademark gigantic pumpkin-looking turn signals. These things, I think they use these on everything from their tractors to their riding lawnmowers to their bikes. They never seem to go away, but there they are. When this bike came out in '93, it had these unique holes in the fairing up here on the upper plastic and then down on the lower, and that was there's a lot of theories of why that existed. One was to reduce drag and stuff like that. Whether that's true or not, you know, it's I don't think it's ever really been proven, but it certainly looked cool anyways, along with the dual round headlights. We saw this on Suzuki GSXRs, but you know, with Honda's wide front end, they kind of took what the ZX7 was doing at the time, which was a big wide sort of bike, and really came up with something cool. Front wheel, it looks a little small. That's because it is. It came with a 16-inch front wheel. Now, you know, that was only, these days that's only for race bikes, 16.5-inch fronts maybe. So a lot of people actually converted their CBR 900s to a 17-inch front wheel. They poached one off a CBR 600. Again, you know, with mixed results. Some people claim it steered better, and some just left it as it is. We'll roll back and have a look at this dash, and you want to talk about all business. There's no fancy swooshy gauges or anything. You turn this on, you've got a speedo, a gigantic tack wrapped in foam, and a few dummy lights, and that's it. There's nothing intricate, and there's certainly nothing digital going on here. And then you look at this funny thing here that says choke. Well, if you're of the new era, you don't have to worry about these things on fuel-injected bikes. But back then, this was do or die. You got to give it a special choke and get it warmed up properly. But you can see this thing was redlining here at 11,000 RPM, and you're getting somewhere in around 120 horsepower. The nice thing about this bike though is right off idle for street riding, you have immediate power delivery. Something that over the years has kind of moved more of a top end hit. But on these older bikes, it seemed the seat of the pants felt like more torque. Back here, a lovely dual tail light. The previous owner removed the stock license plate and big turn signals, but again, might look a little silly compared to today's bikes, but back then that was cutting edge. So there's the 93 CBR 900. Here's the 2010 CBR 1000. This bike's come a long way since 17 years ago with the 1993 CBR 900. That bike evolved in the year 2000 into the CBR 929. 2 years later it became the 954, and then became CBR 1000 in 2004, and ultimately evolved into this bike. Came out in 2008, CBR 1000, totally new from the ground up. I mean, you compare and contrast the front ends on the 93 versus this 2010, and there's certainly a big difference. Same on the tail sections here. I mean, this is tiny and petite. Honda still managed to keep some big turn signals, but you know, styling is obvious. It's changed so much over the years. The bike feels from the seat a lot smaller, and you know, has mixed reviews on styling. Some really like it, and some aren't real fond of it. The exhaust has gone back to a side-mounted exhaust after several years of an under-seat exhaust. So that kind of fad came and went, and we're kind of back to square one. We'll run up here in the front from the cockpit, and you can see a dramatic difference from the original. Now it's cool gauges, there's funny noises from computers coming, and there's digital readouts, and you've got all kinds of displays and all kinds of stuff going on up here. And you can see now the red line too has moved up from 11,000 up to 13,000. So in 17 years we've gained 2,000 RPM and 30 to 40 horsepower easily. You know, one quick tick of the button, there's no choke needed, anything like that. That's a pretty nice little airbox and exhaust note out of a stock bike, and you can see, you just fire that thing up, fuel injection takes care of it, and you're off, you're in business. Everything, every component on this bike's updated, you know, from brakes, we've got obviously radial brakes compared to standard old style. Yeah, everything has changed and come a long way. And what's that mean when you ride them? For street riding, you're going to have people who can go either way. Some want to play the nostalgic route and hop on this. You have nice torque right off idle. The bike just pulls away. You sit down in the bike. You really feel like you're part of it. Whereas this, you're right up on top of the bike. It also, for in 2010 standards, pulls really good off idle. But this bike really comes alive in the mid-range and upper RPMs. So when you hit about 6,000 RPMs on this bike, you really want to hold on. Move over here to our 1993, which seems like a bit of a relic after looking at the fancy, technically advanced 2010 model. So we turn the key on. What do we notice? There's no noise, there's nothing, there's no computers, there's no fuel injection, there's no throttle bodies singing to us. Instead, it's just hit the button and let it do its thing. This particular bike has a Two Brothers slip-on pipe on it. You noticed a nice throaty sound coming out of it. Pretty slick looking pipe, and it's, you know, custom color matched and matches the bike and everything like that. So you notice a little bit of an exhaust growl, but ultimately it still spins, it still revs up pretty quick for being such an old dinosaur. So there's your CBR leader bikes from back in the day to the modern way here. Come a long way. Which one do we prefer? Well, kind of depends on the time and place, but there's always a special one in my heart.